Hi there, and welcome to Hyundai Power Products. My name's Adrian, and today we're going to look at this HYFT60P. So it's a field trimmer from Hyundai, and I tell you what, these things really save you some time when you've got a lot of work to do. So I've laid everything out on the table. First of all, we have the main unit itself. The handles are separate, the wheels are separate. So the control cables and the controls are attached to the machine, so there's no wiring to be done there. There is assembly to be done. So we have two handles. I've placed this one here, and we have the second part of the handle here. So two parts of the handle. It does come with a spark plug spanner and tube. It comes with a rubber guard. The two wheels, it does come with replacement trimmer line. What else have we got? There's a bag here with various fittings that we're going to put on later, and obviously the hand wheels that needed for assembly of the handles. And then finally, you'll see that there are two user manuals. Now, one of these manuals, this one, is the safety manual. So all the safety tips are in here. And this covers both models, this one and the self-propelled version. And then obviously there's the operator's manual for this machine. I do recommend that you read the manual thoroughly before use. So first thing I'm going to do is put the wheels on for convenience. So you'll see the wheels here. It has a closed off side, and it has a side here on this side with hollows in it. So we need to put it on in this orientation with the smoother side out. So if I remove the nut, conventional right-handed thread, if I just pick the end of the machine up, as you can see, it's not that heavy. Pop the wheel into place. I'll let it lean to one side for now. Then I can fit the nut in place. So these are nylon nuts. So once you put them on, they will not vibrate loose. And I'll tighten it down. Keep going right up to the shoulder until the wheel is locked in place. So there we are. You'll find it will stop. I'll tighten it down firmly. Just make sure the wheel rotates. There we go. That's the one side done. I'll repeat the operation on the other side. So this is the lower handle. It's the narrower of the two. And you'll see on the end of each lug are two holes. And they're going to correspond with two bolts on the machine. We'll bring you to those in a second. But one thing of note, this handle can go on one of two ways. If I was to put it on this way, this handle would be leaning downhill. What I need to do is put it on this way, and then this leading edge is sweeping upwards away from the floor. So that's the correct way when we offer it up and bolt it on. So now that we've established the correct orientation of the handle, I've undone the two bolts the other side. I'll undo these two. They've been placed in the holes ready for you. So I'll just unscrew them. Then I'll place the handle, being careful not to trap the cables, approximately in place. Just find that hole. Oh, I'm holding with one hand here while trying to show you. There we are. Just line that first one up, loosely in place. Put the second one in. Let's just line it up, loosely in place. I'll fit the two bolts on the other side loosely in place now, and then go around and tighten up the four bolts. So I did use a 15mm socket to put the wheels on. To tighten these nuts up, a 13mm spanner I've got, but you could use a socket as well. So I'm just going to tighten up these four, and that's the lower handle fitted. So we're going to fit the upper handle to the lower now, and you'll see it came with two thumb wheels, two bolts and washers. I'm just going to disassemble them temporarily, so that I've got them at the ready when I fit the upper to the lower handle. Okay. So, orientation of the upper handle. You'll see a pigtail on here. That's what we call it. That's for retaining the recoil cord. But the pigtail goes on the same side of the engine as the recoil, and the handle will point downwards this time. So I'll just offer it up in place. I'll just hold it by one side. I'll take one of these bolts. So from the inside outwards, just pass it through the hole. Do the same on my side, just temporarily. Okay. So with that in place, the bolt in place, put a washer on and put the thumb wheel on. Just snug it down. And obviously the advantage of these thumb wheels, I'll just assemble the other side, is that when you're storing the machine, it's very quick to simply undo the thumb wheels, then you can fold the handle down for storage. Quite often, you'll find that the pigtail part is on the inside. I don't know about you, but a good tip, I've just loosened it off. I prefer it to be on the outside, and it just seems to work better for me. So if yours is on the inside, you can try it either way. Just see what works for you. So I've got it pointing downhill. I'll just tighten that up. There we are. I prefer it on the outside. So what's the purpose of the pigtail? I can pull the recoil. Yeah, go to the inside, around, drop it into the hole, and now we've got the pull starter up by the operator in a convenient position, so you haven't got to bend over to start it. So we need to fix the handles, the controls, onto the top handle now. So I'll explain how to do that. Now, one thing that's important is when you fit these, don't pass underneath this bar, because when you fold the handles over for storage, you're likely, as you can see, to damage the cable. So always put them over the top of this bar. When you fold it down now, we're not going to bend the cable over this bar and cause any damage. So to fit this lever, it does come with its bolt already installed. I'll just take it out to that point. In fact, this one's the right way around. So we're going to put it on the inside, and I'm going to put it in the top hole here. So bolt and washer through. I'll pass it through the top hole, put the nut on the outside. Okay, so 10mm socket, 10mm spanner, tighten them up. Don't over tighten these, just tighten enough to lock it securely in place on the handle. And this is your throttle control. So I've tightened up the bolt there now. As I said, be careful not to over tighten it, just snug it down. And we've got full control of this lever. When it's new, it may be a little stiff, but it will travel along the full range. That's that one fitted. We'll move to the other side. So here we have the clutch, which engages the cutting head. This fits on the high part of the handle, but again, make sure we go in front of this bar. So we're over the top of this bar. If we were to go this way, although there's a bit more slack in the cable, we could damage it. So over the top of the bar. So you'll see on the underside of the bolts, they've got the nuts. The bolts are captive, so they won't turn. I'll just undo those two nuts. Let me get that one as well. I'll just locate the two bolts down through the two holes in the handle and just get the nuts started, both of them. And again, we'll snug these down with a spanner. So I've got a socket here, but don't over tighten them. We're pulling these bolts down onto the plastic molding, as it were, and it doesn't need a great deal. Okay, so there we are. That's the clutch handle. Can't quite reach from up here. Engaged. So you will have noticed there are two cable tidies in the bag. So a little bit of housekeeping. I'll fit one here on the upper handle, and we'll fit the second one. I just grab hold of it. Down here on the lower handle, on the angle part. And that just tidies up the clutch cable in position. So if you look in your manual, there's a good chance that your manual will show the fitting of this lower or main plastic guard around the cutting head. In the vast majority of cases, when you receive your machine, this will already be fitted. So we changed that slightly to make it easier for you. So this will already be fitted. However, this rubber guard, extension guard, won't be fitted. So we'll show you how to fit that. And you'll see the 4 screws where it fits on, and you'll see it has 4 holes in it. Very simple to do. I'll take you through that. So I'll just undo these 4 screws. Now you can use a Phillips screwdriver on these, or a crosshead screwdriver. Just take them out from the top. So I'll do these 4 and then I'll bring you back. So all the screws are the same. We'll start with this hole. So you'll see a long taper and a short taper. Long taper towards the front or nose of the machine. I'll just pass the screw through the rubber, put the screw into the hole, just get it started with a screwdriver, just looking down through the hole into the hole underneath. That's the third one, and then finally just tuck it into position, just line up the screw in the hole. So I'll tighten them down. I'm going to use the socket on these. No need to overdo this or it'll just distort the rubber all over the place. Okay, so that's the guard extension fitted. So you'll see in the bag 3 little plastic covers, vinyl, bit of housekeeping for the handles, over the nuts that we tightened up earlier on, 2 on there, and the final one on the outside of the throttle handle. So for obvious reasons, we ship this unit to you with no engine oil in the engine. So it's vitally important that you do add engine oil, because there's no low oil protection on these machines. So vitally important that you put engine oil in before you start the machine, or even attempt to. So the engine oil, we do supply the bottle of engine oil that we showed you earlier on, SAE 30 or a 15W40 if you want to replace oil. Okay, so dipstick is here. Turn anti-clockwise, and I can pull the dipstick out. I'll just take that label away. So on the dipstick, we have a low mark and a high mark and a cross-hatched area in between. What I'm looking to do is to pour engine oil down this tube very slowly, small amount at a time, and give it time to run down into the engine. Obviously, small quantities out of the bottle at a time, maybe start with 1/3 of the bottle, and then allow the oil time to run down into the engine, because we don't want to be dipping into what's already in the tube. And the method of dipping is to just place it on the top. We don't screw it on like this. Let me show. We don't screw it into position. We just take the dipstick, dip it on the top, count to 2, back out again, and look at the height on the dipstick. And we're aiming for the high mark. If it hasn't got to the high mark, keep adding oil in small quantities, allowing it time to run down into the engine. Continue dipping till you reach that high mark. When you are, locate the dipstick. Now this is important. Locate it and you'll feel it drop. There, it dropped. Then tighten it up. So now that we've filled it with engine oil, we can fill with petrol and screw the fuel cap anti-clockwise. Fresh unleaded petrol. Obviously, never refuel it in front of any naked flames or sources of ignition. Always do it outside in a well-ventilated area. And if you're going to refuel the unit after using the machine, allow the machine time to cool down before you refuel it. If you splash fuel and it gets on the exhaust, there's a likely hazard. So allow the engine to cool before filling with fuel. But fresh, unleaded petrol, up to a level maybe 25 millimeters below the top of the filler neck would be full, and replace the filler cap securely. So the starting procedure for the machine. So right forward like this is the starting position. So this is the run position. So what we need to do is put it into this position with the lever right down. Just before we do it, to stop the machine, pull the lever right back. That will stop the spark, stop the engine. So to run, always fully forward. Now there is no throttle per se on this machine. It's purely start or stop on this here. So what we would do is put it fully forward, and the engine is a governed engine, so it'll run at a constant RPM. So starting procedure, we've got oil, we've got fuel. So we've got a primer here. So we would push it, if it were cold, 2 to 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 if it was cold and been left for a long time. Throttle full out, then we can pull the recoil and the engine will start. When we want to stop the engine, stop it by pulling this back. Okay, so that's start and stop. If the engine was warm, you just stopped it, for instance, or stopped while you were doing something else for a couple of minutes, you may not need to use the primer. But again, if it doesn't start, 1 or 2 pushes of the primer, as long as you're in the on position, pull the recoil and the engine will start and you're ready to go. So let's talk about the clutch here. There's 2 positions, there's run and lock. This is in the lock position. So for instance, if the engine were running now and I wanted to start the cutting head, I push this red lever fully to the right. Then when I pull the clutch, the cutting head will start to rotate. If at any time I fully release this, you'll see it goes back to the lock position. So push to the right, pull it down. That's it. If you ever let go, it will lock again. So we'll talk about the threading of the cutting line. Now, what I'd advise, to make it simple, we do supply 4 lengths of cutting line. So I'd have a look at what the length is. And the ideal is to mark a black line in the center. That gives you the center point for the knot when you're threading it up. Again, another quick tip, because it's likely to be sometime between when you do this. Maybe take a photograph on your mobile phone of how it's threaded. And as you can see, if we've got that center line, we would thread the 2 parts through and then back through the center, over themselves, fairly straightforward. as you can see, they form almost a reef knot in there. The two ends are of equal length. So that's what would be handy if you drew a little black line just to line up your cord so you don't have one long one, one short one. But fairly straightforward to do. I would recommend that before you pull it all the way through that you thread it and then tighten it up evenly. So what we can do is adjust the height of where the cutting lines are. So this dome on the end here is fixed from the deck of the machine. So this dome will always sit on the floor. But we can raise and lower where these cutting wires are. So inside this slot, which you'll see, there are 2 grub screws. So I'd probably have a good look at it before you use it for the first time. And I can just about see where the grub screws are. And as you saw when I loosened the second one, it all dropped down to its lowest position. And if I just lift it up, you can see it is adjustable up to this height to leave longer grass or whatever you're cutting, weeds, and then it can go right down to the ground as well. But sometimes if you're on really uneven ground, it's probably more beneficial to start up high. When you undo these grub screws, probably 1 turn from when they come loose. Don't unscrew them all the way, because it's quite difficult to get them back in again and line them up. So I've just tightened that one. Let's get the top one. That's tight. So those 2 are tight now, and that's fixed in position. That would be the biggest cut. And as I said, you saw I can go down quite far. So the Allen key is provided in the toolkit with the machine, but it's just a standard 4mm Allen key should you lose it. So as long as you remember to put fuel in, check the engine oil daily, give it a good clean after use, this machine should last you many years. Well, I do hope you found this demonstration useful. For more information on this or any of our other products, visit www.hyundaipowerproducts.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and thank you for watching.